First up, getting you an exclusive news break on the top of this edition of news, where a few days back, Pakistan had claimed that it had caught Indian spies, and the media report suggested them and called them as Indian spies that had been held. Where Republic TV's Shravan Sen, who will be joining us soon, has accessed those explosive police records that expose the lies that have been peddled by Pakistan and also followed by some sections in the media. The truth, in fact, is they were Hizbul terrorists, and they had been covered as Indian spies, and that is how the media reports had suggested them later on. Where Pakistan's Indian spies lie has now been exposed, where we are looking at more proof with Shravan, who will be joining us any minute now, and to bust Pakistan's lie on such kind of a propaganda that has now been peddled from Pakistan's side. Shravan is with us to give us more details of what had been the initial arrest of Hizbul terrorists, and they were turned into Indian spies, and that's how certain media sections have been reporting about this, Shravan.
Well, in fact, this is yet another Pakistan propaganda which has now been busted. Let me just put this into perspective. On 12th of June, various Pakistani news portals as well as social media handles in India, and unfortunately some even Indian news portals, had basically done a story and peddling a story saying that 2 Indian spies were basically arrested in Gilgit-Baltistan area. In fact, they had also quoted the SSP of Gilgit-Baltistan, saying that 2 people from Jammu and Kashmir who had basically crossed over as Indian spies were immediately arrested in Gilgit-Baltistan. Now, what's the reality? We are talking about 2 people. One is Noor Muhammad Wani and the other happens to be Feroz. Both of them who allegedly were basically arrested by Pakistan for being Indian spies. The reality, it turns out that yes, they are residents of Jammu and Kashmir. There's no doubt they're from Gurez district, but the reality happens to be that they basically crossed over in the year 2019. They went missing from Jammu and Kashmir in 2018. In fact, Noor, we're given to understand, was working as a labourer in a shop in Srinagar, and Feroz used to work as a village level worker in Dawar, is what we are being told. In 2018 is when both of them actually went missing. In fact, there have been a missing report that has been filed in the local police station in Jammu and Kashmir. In fact, what we're given to understand is that Noor Muhammad Wani actually got in touch with his handler Mushtaq alone sometime in 2018, and in 2019 we are basically told that they had crossed over. Feroz also got in touch with his handler Mushtaq, and they thereafter started working in the launch pads of Hizbul Mujahideen in Pakistan occupied Kashmir. In fact, they worked as guides for Hizbul Mujahideen and assisted the terrorists to cross over to India, is what we are given to understand. But late in 2019, when Feroz started making calls to his acquaintance in Srinagar and made his plans of return very clear, essentially Feroz wanted to return home in 2020, early January 2020, that's when things went haywire, because their handlers got to know about their plans of returning home, and this certainly did not go down well. And thereafter, they were basically faced a lot of backlash. What Pakistan essentially wanted to do is that in the last couple of days, you've seen somehow Pakistani spies were basically arrested by Indian agencies, and they perhaps thought that this was tit for tat. They wanted to pass off a Hizbul terrorist as perhaps Indian spies, saying that look here, we have caught Indian spies. But the reality is that they were never Indian spies to begin with. They were in fact people, they were Hizbul Mujahideen terrorists who had basically crossed over to Pakistan occupied Kashmir. They were basically working at the launch pads, and Pakistan essentially wanted to pass them off as Indian spies. The reality is completely different.
Major Gaurav Arya is with us on the phone line. Shravan, stay on with us. Major Gaurav Arya, we've heard this such kind of an attempt of Pakistani propaganda being made before. Their own people, their own terrorists from their own terror launch pads, how they are passed off as Indian spies because they changed their mind. And this time around, we're getting to know even how certain portals in the Indian media are also following Pakistani lines.